With this little tutorial I will show you how to run Windows 8 to get you started, because Windows 8 is quite different than Windows 7 Vista or XP that you might be used to. In order to do this recording I run Windows 8 in VirtualBox because that allows me to use all my facilities of the Windows 7 host. That's no different than if you run it on your system. So when you run it on your laptop or your desktop in a double boot partition or so, you'll see exactly the same thing. So we'll start it, and the first thing you'll notice that it will start extremely fast. Booting is very fast, and here it has a fish, and now it already logs me in automatically because I set it that way that it logs me in automatically. And I'm already in Windows 8. And lo and behold, it's a little different than what you're used to. You don't have a desktop here. You only have a start screen. We'll get to the desktop in a minute. Let me first familiarize you with this start screen. You have those, well, you would think they are icons, but they're actually tiles. That's what they call them. And every tile is an application. For example, this is the desktop application. This is a weather application. This is an application for pictures, although that one doesn't run too well. You may want to use the traditional ones. This is an application to play music, which does run pretty well. It's different though. And then you have a lot of other applications here. You have the Internet Explorer here, but you might not want to use this one. This is Internet Explorer 10, and that has been optimized for tablets or smartphones. And it's very different to Internet Explorer 9. I'll show you later how you use Internet Explorer 9. Very simple. And you have Windows Media and the snipping tool here and Notepad. Let me just click on, or Paint. Let me click on Paint, and you have the familiar Paint program here. And that of course gets you back to the desktop. The desktop is not the same as what you're used to, because there's no start button. There is no start button. There is a start button, but it's hidden here in this corner. You have to go all the way into this corner here, down here, and eventually it show up. Oops, now it's already gone. It'll show up, and if you click on it, well, I clicked on the wrong thing. It didn't do it. It's a little finagly, especially here in VirtualBox, because I quickly go out of bound and back in on my Windows 7. But anyhow, that's the start button. Much easier is to push just the start button on the keyboard to get you back to start. So let's continue a little bit with start first. So you have these groups of applications, and I grouped them together here into what I call essentials and apps. Those are the apps that came with the system. There were a lot more. I unpinned most of them because I wasn't using them. And then some programs here, and then some system functions, and then some folders. But later I did something that moved all kinds of other stuff in here. See, the folders are documents, music, videos, and pictures. And they're very easy to do if you go to the desktop. Easiest way is to press the start button and D, and you get to the desktop. Then you can go into Explorer, which you have down here, and for example, go to My Documents, and you right click on it, and then you say Pin to Start, and that's how they got there. So so that's how I got the shortcuts here of well, of documents, music, pictures, etc. Now there's all kinds of other things that got added to it, and if you want to make a separate group of them, you just move over a boundary here, and you can move all this stuff over here. And let me just move these few here, and you make a new group of those. Now you don't have a name for that group, of course, uh, because they came from this group originally. But you can name the group. You go all the way to the bottom right here. There's a little something. Oh, by the way, we will talk about these things that are showing up sometimes here, the charms, in a minute. You go all the way down here and click on that, and it makes it very, very small. And then you see this is a new group that we had created. You right click on that and you can give it a name. And let's just call it new group for the purposes of this exercise. And you press name. Okay, and then when you go back to your start screen, see there's new groups. Those are the ones we moved over. Now if you want to make another group, you just drag those guys all the way as far out as you can, and you'll get a new group. So that's how you make groups. And then you go down here, minimize them, and right click on this new group, and we'll call it group 2, and give it a name, and click on it, and then you'll see there's group 2, and these guys are over here. So this is how you can organize your desktop. If there's something you don't want, for example, let me see, Windows PowerShell, I don't want. So I right click on the Windows PowerShell and I unpin it, and it's gone. And what's this? There's another Windows PowerShell. Jesus, how many PowerShells do we have? So see, there's a third Windows PowerShell. Those are some that came with the system, and I just left them here so I could demonstrate what one can do with it. But anything you think you're not going to start as an application, you just get rid of it. There's some useful ones like system information. Let's just press that. That is when in Windows 7 you put shell system into the start, then you get that. By the way, speaking of putting something into start, if you're looking for something, you don't have the familiar Windows search field, but the whole start screen is a search field. So if you put something in here, for example, let's say Notepad, if you're looking for it, you just type it on the start screen and you see Notepad comes up, and there's Notepad. So that's very handy. Okay, so much for the beginnings of the start screen, and we'll look a little further in a second. The reason you had the little pause here was because I'm recording this with the Microsoft Expression Encoder 4 recording facility, and I'm using the trial version, which cuts me off after 10 minutes because it's free, but $199 for the program. I'm not sure if I want to spend that before. I haven't really tried it out. Okay, let's get back to the start screen here. So I showed you how to pin things to the start screen and how to make groups on the start screen. Now, several times you saw these charms popping up, which is when you go to the way up to the right corner on the top here, they come up, and they do various things, or at least they're supposed to do various things. They don't do very much yet in this beta version, except settings. Settings, if you click on settings, you get a settings screen here, and that one you need when you want to shut down the system, because here's a power button and you can shut down the system or restart the system from here. The other ones, they don't really do much yet. Again, it's a beta version, so we are not supposed to have all the functions yet. It's, by the way, a lot easier to get to this setting screen by pressing the Start button and which I have just done, and you're back to the settings screen. Uh, what's nice about it is if you go to more settings here, then you get a lot of possibilities. For example, if you click on Start Screen up here, you can choose all kinds of colors. For example, let's choose a different color, the gray color here. Uh, and if you then look at your Start Screen, it's all gray. Okay, so if you like gray, that is the way to do it. And let's go back to more settings. You have all these colors, but they're all kind of pretty dull and not very intriguing. Okay, on the left side here, you have all kinds of options. Uh, let's go to general, for example. You can adjust for daylight savings time and some app switching options, some spelling options, or if you go to devices, you can add a device, you can add headphones and all kinds of things. Ease of access, uh, you can make a high contrast, for example. That's interesting. See, everything is in high contrast, which is pretty nice if that's something you like. So let's work with high contrast for a moment. It's not too bad. And let's go back to our PC settings here. Personalize it. Lock screen apps. I don't even really know what that is. Anyhow, you can explore those. Home group. Well, that may be interesting if you want to set a home group. Uh, uh, what else do we have here? Well, that's about it, I guess. Okay, so now we have the high contrast, which for somebody like me who doesn't see very well, is pretty good. By the way, I have the magnifier here, which I could use. I use the magnifier sometimes if I cannot decipher something. Okay, now of course your desktop isn't all that nice anymore, so if you click here, and as I said, the desktop is just an application, you get to the desktop, and the desktop's pretty dull. Uh, let's get a picture on the desktop. Let's go to our pictures. Uh, and in order to get the picture, you just right click on it and say set it as desktop background, and hopefully it'll be there. Let's get out of here. And there's our picture. Very nice. So down here, as I said, it comes with two icons, the Explorer icon, and that is a familiar Explorer 9. It looks a little different here in the high contrast, but believe me, it is. And it comes with the icon for the Explorer, and this is the normal Explorer in high contrast. Um, then I have added this here, which is a notepad, because sometimes I just save something in the notepad, um, and it's handy to have that down here. And I've also put here the the what's it called? Get the name. Control panel. Okay, control panel. Now here you see the limits of our high contrast desktop because these blue colors are not very easy to read. And in the Windows 7 high contrast, you could these are hyperlinks. You could make different color for the hyperlinks. For example, I made them yellow in the high contrast, but here you don't have this option. So let's switch back to where we were so that we don't get too confused here. Okay, more, and what was it? Ease of access. Okay, and we are back to where we were before. Okay, now we are back in business. However, if you want some system functions, it's very easy. It's Start button plus X, and you get a whole list of system functions: programs and features, network connection, power options, event viewer, system device manager, disk management. So you can go to your disk management right from here, and it'll show you there's my system reserved 350 megabytes. That's, by the way, an interesting observation. If you have trouble installing Windows 8 and it tells you there's not enough disk space, although you have given 100 gigabytes for it, then you have a problem in double booting with the system reserve partition of Windows 7, because the Windows 7 system reserve partition is only 100 megabytes, but the BCD of Windows 8 is very big and it may not fit into these 100 megabyte partitions. So it's not your C partition which doesn't have enough space, it is the system reserve partition. Okay, and then there's something else here. Uh, this is a VirtualBox feature. Okay, so your desktop, normal operation on the desktop, you can put your shortcuts here. For example, oops, this must have moved, so I better delete that. Uh, your snipping tool, if you want to snip something, see, you can snip something here. It's a snipping tool. So you can make no, we don't want to retain that. You can make normal shortcuts here, and then you of course have your recycle bin and everything. So as far as that is concerned, it is all the same. Okay, back on our gray start menu here. Let's do something different. Let's right click on it. And by the way, right click is always a good bet, regardless where you are in Windows 8. It always reveals something that you can do. And we'll go to all apps. Now that's the all programs in the start menu of Windows 7 or Vista. The same thing. And you find all your programs here, but in a much nicer fashion than, for example, in Windows 7, where you have to scroll through all the folders, and then you open the folder and there's all kinds of things, uninstallers and tutorials and what have you. Here you actually find the programs, which is very convenient. For example, if you right click on a program, command prompt, let's right click on it. You get, as I said, right click is always a good option. You can pin it to the start menu. You can pin it to the taskbar. You can run it as administrator, which you need to do when you want to run command prompt. So let's run it as an administrator. And here you have command prompt. Mine is a little fancier than the normal black window because I fancied it up a little bit. And if you run a command, as admin list shadow storage, for example, shadow storage. Okay, here it shows you that I have a maximum of 2%, which is only 580 megabyte of my little virtual disk, and I have already allocated 3%. I never understood why the shadow storage can be more than you defined as maximum, but that's the way it is. It doesn't go much higher than that though. Those are the restore points that you have if you want to know what they are. As admin list shadows. Here it gives you all the restore points you have. I have apparently, how many do I have here? 1, 2. Yeah, I have 2. Okay. Anyhow, that's um, how you can start a program from here. And you can, if you want, for example, where do we have one? There's pinball. Yeah, there's pinball. If I, for example, want to pin it to start, I can pin it to start from here, and then when I go to start, it's always at the end where it pins it. My pinball is here at the end, but I probably wouldn't want it here, so I would move it to another group, probably to this group here because it's an application that came with the system. Oops. Now let's see. So I moved it here. Okay. So again, right click, or instead of right click, you can do the start button plus Q, and you get there too. And actually, you get additional things, and you have a search field if you want to search for one. You can put it in there, and you have the settings here too. The settings field. You have Internet Explorer. Now that's the one. That's the one I told you about, which is actually the Internet Explorer 10. Uh, this is the Internet Explorer 10, and this is also kind of a ingenious thing. If you right click again, if you right click, you get all kinds of functions here. And if you go to this little thing here, let me see. Okay, you can run in private. Okay, and you can do all kinds of other things. If you go to the plus sign, you get the most recently used ones. The problem with Internet Explorer 10 is you cannot really have favorites in the traditional way. Any favorite that you want to access directly, you have to pin. See, I have none pinned here. You have to pin to the start menu, and that's very, very inconvenient because, for example, my Windows 7, last time I counted, I had 1,386 favorites. How am I going to pin those to the start menu? That is not a good deal. So let's go. Oops. Let's get out of here. Let's go back to our All Apps. So anyhow, here you have all the applications that that you want to run, and you can pin them to the start menu. You can pin them to the taskbar, depending on whether you rather want to run more or less from the start menu, or whether you rather want to run from the desktop. So that's a choice. You have actually two systems in one. Well, that much for the initial introduction to Windows 8, and now of course you want to shut it down, and that is again a shortcut on the keyboard. It is the start button plus I, and you get to your power window here, and you say shut down, and it's shutting down the system. It's pretty fast too, but that's the end of this one. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of Windows 8. It's really a nice system because you're getting two systems in one, and you can operate either from the desktop like here, or you can operate from the start menu. And I think it's worth trying out. Let me just repeat the essential skills you need in order to navigate. Well, the start button, of course, is really your friend. It gets you to the start screen. Before I didn't activate my Windows 8 yet, then I got the start of my Windows 7. A little mistake. Anyhow, so the start button is important, and then when you want to get to the desktop from anywhere in Windows 8, it's start plus D, and you get to the desktop. So start button, start plus D, start plus X gives you all these system programs if you care to use those system programs. For example, which I didn't show earlier, control panel gets you to the normal control panel that you're used to. Then right click is another important option. Whenever you right click on something, you get some option. For example, here you get the all programs or all apps option, and then the last one is start plus I, that you need in order to either to go to these additional settings here that you can make, or if you want to power off the system, which is here, shut down the system or restart it. So those are essentially your navigation tools, and if you click on it, usually when these things flip out here, when you click on it, you get rid of it. The, the corners here, as I showed you, they are kind of useless as far as I'm concerned. They are useful on a tablet or a smartphone, but on the desktop they are not very useful in my mind. I'd rather use the shortcuts. There's another one, the keyboard shortcuts. There's the Windows plus C, which gets you to the charms, but as I said earlier, the charms are not doing very much yet, so in the final version that may be a very useful shortcut too. So let's go to the settings, and then we can power off our system, and I hope you give it a try, and watch out when you install it. If it tells you there's not enough space to install it, it is most likely your 100 megabyte system partition of Windows 7 that does that to you. And there's various ways to fix that. Come to the forum and ask the question, and we'll tell you how to do that. Okay, so much for that.